Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. I'm Dr. Carmen Imes, Associate Professor of Old Testament at Talbot School of Theology, and today we are picking things up in Exodus chapter 28. We're going to read the first 14 verses of the chapter, which describe the first section of the high priestly garments that are prescribed for Aaron to wear once the tabernacle is all built. If you're just joining me now and haven't been part of this series, you can go back to my channel and look at the Torah Tuesday Exodus playlist, and you can watch all the way through the book up to this point. I'll be reading from my own translation of the Hebrew. As for you, bring near to you Aaron your brother and his sons with him from the midst of the Israelites to serve as priests for me. Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, sons of Aaron. You shall make sacred garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for splendor. You yourself shall speak to all the wise-hearted who are filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they shall make Aaron's garments for his glory, so that he may serve me as priest. Now these are the garments they shall make: choshen and ephod, robe and checkered tunic, turban and sash. So they shall make sacred garments for Aaron your brother and for his sons, that he may serve as priest for me. They themselves must receive the gold and blue and purple and crimson and fine linen. And they shall make the ephod of gold, blue, and purple, crimson, and fine twisted linen, the work of a first-class weaver. 2 connected shoulder pieces are to be part of it on its 2 edges, that it may be connected. As for the design of his ephod that is on it, shall be like its workmanship, matching it. It shall be gold, blue, and purple, crimson, and fine twisted linen. You shall take the 2 carnelian stones and engrave upon them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names upon the first stone, and the names of the 6 remaining upon the second stone, according to their birth. The work of a designer in stone, the engraving of a signet, you shall engrave the 2 stones according to the names of the sons of Israel. Fixed in settings of gold you shall make them. You shall place the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod, memorial stones before Israel. Aaron shall bear their names before Yahweh upon his 2 shoulders as a memorial. You shall make settings of gold and 2 chains of pure gold. Hammered you shall make them, a braided work, and you shall set the braided chains upon the settings. We're going to stop there, and next week we'll pick up with the next piece of furniture. As you could tell in this passage, mostly what we're hearing about, after an overview of all the garments, we're mostly hearing about the ephod or ephod that Aaron wears, which is a kind of apron. Notice that the instructions are for Moses. I'm going to quote here from one of the best commentators on Exodus, Cornelius Huffman. He says, "Consecration of the priests is such an important matter that Moses must do it himself as Yahweh's representative. That task cannot be delegated." And that's what we see here. Moses is the one receiving these instructions on the mountain. He personally needs to be the one to receive the priests, to separate them out from everyone else so that they can be prepared to do this work. The word priest here at the beginning of the passage, verse 3, so that he may serve me as priest. Priest is actually a verb in this phrase. It's to priest for me. So we don't use priest as a verb in English, but in Hebrew, priest can be a noun or a verb. So the purpose of the clothing is to make it possible for Aaron to priest. Aaron has 4 sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. The first 2, the older 2, very quickly go off the rails. In Leviticus 10, verses 1 and 2, we hear the story or read the story of them violating God's careful instructions for what kind of incense can be offered inside the sacred place, and they are immediately zapped. Fire comes out from the presence of God and consumes them. Going forward, Eleazar will be the one to take the priesthood, the high priesthood, from his father Aaron. And in Numbers 3, verse 32, we see that he is made in charge of the sanctuary. He oversees what happens inside the sanctuary. Ithamar in Exodus 38, verse 21, is given the job of recording the offerings that are brought to the tabernacle, and he also oversees other clans. So there are other clans of Levites that are not descended from the exact same family as Moses and Aaron, and they have jobs related to the tabernacle that don't involve giving the sacrifices and maintaining the bread on the table, the incense, the lights. They don't do exactly that work. Instead, they're responsible for carrying things when it's time to move from place to place. Aaron's garments are matching. They match the tabernacle. They're made of the same materials as the tabernacle. And that shows that he's part of it and serves as its authorized representative. So it's not like the priesthood is something you could just volunteer to do. You have to be born into the tribe of Levi, into the family of Aaron, in order to be a priest. You have to be male. You have to be 30 years old without defect. There's all sorts of other rules that are given in Leviticus for who qualifies. But most importantly, the clothing that the priest wears is actually part of the tabernacle. So there's no break in the tabernacle instructions between making the Ark of the Covenant, making the table, and making what Aaron will wear. In effect, the idea is that Aaron actually is part of the tabernacle. The tabernacle cannot operate without his involvement, and he cannot be involved without dressing the way the tabernacle is dressed. So this is a case where the clothes make the man. They are constitutive of his identity. There are 7 items described in this particular chapter, chapter 28. So there's the ephod that we read about today. There's the hoshen, or chest piece that attaches to the apron, the robe, the tunic, the turban, the sash, and finally underwear under everything else. And we'll take these piece by piece and look at what he's wearing. The ephod doesn't show up here very well on this little Bible bricks figure. It's basically this purple apron that he's wearing that goes around the back and ties at the front. We can't see any shoulder. The shoulder pieces are kind of hiding under his beard at the side. And it also doesn't give us a back of the apron. There should be a back here, and it should be multicolored. So it doesn't quite fit the bill, fit the description. We read that these garments are to be made of techelet, argamon, and tolat hashani. These 3 colored fibers are the most expensive colored fibers you could find in the ancient world. They're purple, blue, and crimson. In a previous episode where I was talking about the tabernacle materials, I explained that the blue techelet is made from a murex shell, the secretions of the snail that lives in the murex shell, and it makes this kind of sky blue color. There's a difference in color, the color that results, depending on whether you process it indoors or outdoors, and if you add other chemicals to the process. So that's how we get blue and then purple. And then the argamon is also from this same dye, but processed differently. And then the tolat hashani is a crimson color that's made from the eggs of a particular worm that lives in trees. So these are ancient dyeing methods. It takes a tremendous number of shells or number of eggs to make any of these colors. So to have an entire outfit, for example, the blue robe of the high priest would have taken scads of seashells or sea snails so that they could get enough dye. And that's what makes it so expensive. Aaron's clothing sets him apart. He is the best dressed Israelite. Okay, so let's talk about the ephod that he's wearing. It's an apron. We're told that it's made by first-class weavers. The term for that kind of weaving is choshev, which is the highest level of skill. And that's what it's made out of, just like the tapestry that divides the sacred place from the most sacred place in the tabernacle. His garments, his apron, is made by the same skilled weavers. He has gold thread worked into the yarn. So they would hammer out the gold into a flat sheet, and then they would slice off threads, probably weave the thread or spin the thread with the dyed yarn so that it has the strength of that yarn so that it doesn't break, and then weave that into the larger piece of fabric. It also comes with a sash, and the word for sash is cheshev. So you can hear the similarity between choshev, which is the first-class weaving, and cheshev, which is the noun form of this first-class weaver workmanship. So it's a skillfully woven band that will tie the ephod to his body. It's possible that this band would have wrapped up Aaron's chest, like to a certain point. There are ancient garments that look like that kind of are wound with a sash. And sashes like this have been found in ancient Egypt from this time period. It was something that the elite would have had. We're told that he has a stone on each shoulder, a carnelian stone. Some translations say onyx stone, but I'm now convinced that carnelian is a better translation. It's a reddish stone. There's 6 names on each shoulder, and they're written according to their birth. Now, it is not entirely clear what names are on his shoulders and what names are on his chest. So the shoulder names say according to their birth. So it does seem likely to me that these would have been the names of Jacob's 12 sons, which are not the same as the 12 tribes of Israel. Because of Jacob's 12 sons, Joseph does not become a tribe, because Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are adopted. They go up a generation to become part of the 12 tribes. And then Levi doesn't get any land inheritance. So there's a shift that happens between the 12 sons to get to 12 tribes. And there really are 14 names if we have all of them listed. So I think Nathan MacDonald is probably right. He suggests that on the shoulders, we have the 12 biological sons of Jacob, which would include Levi and include Joseph. But then the names that would appear on the Choshen, which is the pouch that he wears on his chest, will be the 12 tribes, because later it will say according to their tribes. So it might not be the same names on the shoulders as on the chest. The names are written on the shoulders like a signet, or like the engraving of a signet ring, which probably means that it would be the Hebrew letter Lamed plus the personal name. I happen to have a little illustration here. This says belonging to Yahweh, which is what it says on the high priest's forehead. We'll see that in a couple of weeks. So this first letter, Lamed, is the way of indicating belonging. So this is like a stamp, Yahweh claiming me as his own. That's the idea. So probably all of the tribal names have that Lamed in front of it, because that's how signet rings were identified, belonging to so-and-so. The word ephod comes to mean something else over time. So you might have noticed this. There's the story of David dancing in a linen ephod when he brings the ark to Jerusalem. So notice the apron that we're talking about here is not made of linen. It's made of the blue, purple, and crimson dyed thread and gold thread, and it might have linen in it, but we wouldn't call it a linen ephod. So probably what's going on in later biblical texts is that the word ephod comes to have a broader range of meaning. So technically it's just the apron with the shoulder pieces, which is an oracular device, it's connected to the chest piece, which is oracular in nature. That is, it's used for prophetic discernment, and it's always worn by the high priest. Wherever the ephod occurs in the rest of the Bible, it always refers to something priestly. There's a priestly connotation to it. And sometimes it's oracular, like in Judges chapter 8 and 17, there's mention of an ephod that seems to be like they're inquiring of it to find out God's will. Other times it is called a linen ephod. So 1 Samuel 2:19, 1 Samuel 22:18, 2 Samuel 6:14, and 1 Chronicles 15:27 all refer to a linen ephod. And there it seems to refer to the tunic or maybe a loincloth that the priests wore. So the word seems to be used in a broader sense, not for the exact apron that we're reading about here. what we have described, what we see described in this passage for the apron actually fits really well in a New Kingdom Egypt context, which is to say the late Bronze Age. So there are commentators who will try to say the ephod started off as this skimpy linen garment, and over time it got more and more elaborate. And so that eventually, when this priestly text was written, you have a very elaborate ephod. I actually think it probably works somewhat the other way around, that because the design of this apron fits so well in an Egyptian context, and the technology fits really well in this context, and it actually doesn't fit later in Israel's context because they lose the ability to engrave their own seals and to forge their own metal. They have to go to other peoples. They go to the Philistines for their weapons. They go to Tyre to get their seals. So I actually think this fits really well right here in the Exodus generation. And then over time, the word ephod took on these broader connotations more generically to stuff that priests wear rather than this particular item. So I hope that's helpful. We will continue to explore the different items that the priest wears, and we'll talk about their significance. There's not going to be some big spiritual takeaway for every single item of clothing, but I do think most broadly what we're seeing is that Aaron is part of the furniture of the tabernacle. He must wear these clothes in order to do his job. He can't just put on whatever he wants because the clothes indicate his authorized role as an authorized agent of God's presence in this tent. Let's keep reading Exodus. Have a great week.